Fantastic. All right, well then let's go ahead and get started. I will introduce myself for the recording for what seems like the third time. But good afternoon. My name is Emily Baranoski. I'm Phi Alpha Delta's Deputy Director, and I'm so excited to chat with you all today about some big topics that we've been hearing from our chapters and helping you all get ready for the fall 2023 semester. If you have questions as we go along, I will be presenting for at least 20-30 minutes or so. If you have questions as we go, please don't be afraid to put your hand up in the Zoom controls or throw a question in the chat. I'll be keeping an eye on both of those as we go along today. And then at the end, I'll go ahead and take the PowerPoint down. I can turn the recording off if people like, and we can go ahead and chat about anything that we didn't cover during the presentation or anything you want more information on. So with that, we'll go ahead and get started. What you see here is just a quick list of what I plan to review today. And again, if something that you want to talk about is not on this list, don't worry, we will have plenty of time to do that. And I'm happy to stay for as long as people want to chat. But we'll be going over things, general operations review. We'll go over some of our fees, how to get materials, key dates, things like that. We're going to talk a lot about recruitment because we know that fall is your biggest recruitment season, even though it is not your only recruitment season. And as part of that, we'll also talk about member benefits because we want to make sure that you have the information that you need to be able to market Phi Alpha Delta effectively and basically answer the question, why is this worth it? From there, we will talk about programming and events, including our mock trial competition, which Rachel mentioned at the start here. Very excited to chat about that, and a little bit about our convention, which is coming up next year as well. And again, at the end, time for questions for as long as y'all want to hang out. So go ahead and move on. So I always like to start some of our operations presentations by listing out some of our due dates, deadlines, and fees. And again, I'm happy to share these slides after the fact. So if you want to hold on to this for your fellow chapter officers, for other members, if you're just a member and you just want to know, that's no problem at all. We'll make sure this gets shared with you. These dates are all also listed on our law officer resources page. You guys are going to hear me mention that a lot. So at some point, I'm going to go ahead and throw that link in the chat. That way, you know exactly where I am referring to all of these pages. When I say, oh, it's on the resources page, I'll be like, oh, there it is. So here we go. I'll put that in the chat now. So you don't necessarily have to write all of these down. And you don't have to memorize them because they're on the page. We will put them on our pad.org calendar, and you will always get reminders from the executive office about these due dates. So if there's ever something we need from you, don't worry, we will tell you. These are in order, so the next ones coming up are here on the list. The next one to know is not till October. We try not to ask too much of y'all when school is starting, but that's when registration for our mock trial competition opens, and I do want to point out that we are currently accepting grant applications for that competition, and I will mention that a little bit more later when we get to our major events. The only other thing you really need to worry about for this fall semester is that November 8th deadline. That is Phi Alpha Delta Founders Day, which is always a great day to schedule an event, have some fraternalism, but it's also the date where your spring 2024 semester calendars will be due to our office. So you've got plenty of time to start working on those. And as you look at all of these deadlines, you'll see that a lot of them, like the calendar deadline I just mentioned, are always far in advance of when things need to happen. So for example, we ask for your spring calendars during the fall. We've asked for your fall calendars during the previous spring. We want to make sure that you have plenty of time to plan. That way, if something goes wrong, if you need some help, we have plenty of time to help you, and we're not bumping up against anything like final exams, on-campus interviews, things like that. Those are important. Your priority here is law school, and we want to support that. Some other things to note on this slide is our current fee structure. As most of you should probably know because you joined Phi Alpha Delta, the current law student member initiation fee is $90. I always like to remind everyone this is a one-time fee for lifetime membership. You are not just a member while you are in law school, you are a member for life as long as you want to be one. So your law school membership automatically transitions to alumni membership when you graduate. And that also goes if you are a member who joined from a pre-law chapter. Even though your fee is reduced, only $70, it's still a one-time fee, and that still transitions to alumni membership when you graduate. I always like to make a note that for these fees, payment plans are available. While we can't waive the fees, that's our operating budget right there. We do try to make it a priority to make our membership as accessible as possible. And I am going to talk about in a few minutes what goes into those fees, why we charge them, things like that. Moving on. So this list here are the most common questions and materials that we get asked about here at the executive office. Again, a reminder that I will be sharing these slides after this. So all of these links will be available to you. But again, as I mentioned before, they are also available on that law officer resources page that I linked for you earlier. We can provide to you chapter rosters so that you know exactly who has joined your chapter and their payment status. It does generally take about 2 to 3 days for us to turn that around and get that back to you. So if you need it by a certain deadline, please make sure to note that on the request form when you submit that. There are recruitment materials. We have a variety of free recruitment materials for you, many of them available in a virtual format, but we are also happy to mail you a box of physical materials. I can speak to the fact that Danny, our front office coordinator, is currently out in our main office area shipping recruitment boxes right now. So if you've requested one recently, don't worry, it is on its way to you. But that includes brochures, member benefit flyers, things like that. We generally update our materials twice a year to coincide with the beginning of each semester. However, you can request a box at any time. So if you've already received one, if you're going to receive one, and then come October, you want some more, no problem. Just submit a request again, and we will make sure it gets to you. Once you've done very well with recruitment, as I'm sure you all will, the next big question we always get is how do you get your new member materials, these initiation materials? There's a handy form here for chapter officers to request those certificates and pins. There's no cost for an officer to request the batch of these certificates and pins. That is included in the price of membership. I do suggest that officers make the request for member materials as soon as the initiation ceremony date is set. The more time we know in advance, the more likely it is that we will be able to get you those materials in time for your ceremony. Only one request needs to be made per semester unless your mailing address or your initiation ceremony date changes. And we do make a point to send materials twice a month, once definitely in time for your ceremony to start, and then monthly throughout the semester. Any member that joins during a semester will have their materials sent to the chapter officers during that semester, as long as the chapter officers fill out this request form. This is free. Again, like I mentioned, materials sent to officers are all included. There is also an option, because I know some of us are still in a virtual or hybrid learning environment, for members to request that initiation materials be sent to them individually. There is a processing fee for this. You don't pay for the materials themselves. That's still included, but there's a processing fee for the staff time and the shipping. So that is all included in that form as well, information on that. Keep in mind, if you're planning your initiation ceremony and the date changes last minute, or you don't have time to request materials, that's okay. It's not required that you have these materials to hold your ceremony. The next big thing that we get asked a question for is the initiation fee payment plan. I did briefly mention that on the previous slide. We offer free, interest-free, customizable payment plans for all of our joining fees. Again, we want to make membership as accessible as possible to anyone who is interested. Officers don't need to be the ones to request this. Individual members can request it, and we will never share if someone is on a payment plan unless they get consent to do so. They will not show up on the roster any differently. Once their first payment of their plan is made, they're eligible to be initiated, and they will show up as a paid member on your chapter roster. And the last big material that we always get questions about is chapter bylaws. If your chapter does not currently have bylaws, or if your chapter bylaws have not been updated in some time, please check out our model bylaws document that is available on the Law Officer Resources page. If you're not sure if you have bylaws, you probably don't, or they need a redo. So I would definitely suggest taking a look at that document. It's super handy. All you really need to do is plug in some of your essential chapter information, such as your name, any local dues, and then those bylaws can exist as is. If anyone has questions about setting up bylaws or incorporating school required language, we can absolutely do that. Just get in touch with us. Let's talk a little bit about recruitment. Recruitment and engagement have been huge topics for the executive office, for our chapters, for our volunteers. Ever since the pandemic, this is something that we've been talking about quite a bit. Recruitment is not only an opportunity to grow our fraternity and welcome thousands of new members each semester, but it's vital to Phi Alpha Delta's continued livelihood. So yes, it is a critical part of what we do here. When we talk about recruitment, there are some key things we want you all to be thinking about as you're doing it. First being, answer your own questions. Think about why you joined Phi Alpha Delta and communicate that reason to potential members. You can also ask yourself how you heard about PAD initially and make sure that method is being utilized by you and your fellow chapter members as you engage with potential new members. Another big recruitment tip is to recruit key players. By key players, I mean someone on the Student Bar Association, someone who is a part of another large on-campus organization. SBA members in particular, these are the kind of students on campus who can advocate within the school for your chapter. They can serve as a mouthpiece for recruitment. Any student who's a member of another organization can also help invite other students to join, because you have to remember, you can be a part of PAD and be a part of almost any other organization on campus, whether it be a specialty group, whether it be a student government-based organization. The only membership conflict we have is with other law fraternities. There are not a huge amount of them out there at this time. If you ever have questions on that, just let me know and we're happy to help. We also highly suggest you utilize the university resources that are available to you. This means taking advantage of things like the student organization fair, taking advantage of new student orientation if they allow student groups to be involved in that. Take advantage of things set up by the Career Center. Be present at those kind of major events. Make sure that you're part of homecoming if that's something that your university does. Anything that the university is putting on that you can easily integrate yourself into will be a fantastic recruiting tool that costs very little effort on your part. It's all about visibility and getting the name of Phi Alpha Delta out there. In that same vein, I highly suggest you co-sponsor events with other offices and organizations on campus. Encourage your members to establish relationships with those other organizations. Make sure that your students have the ability to maximize their market potential, essentially. Don't look at other student groups as competition. Again, you can be a part of PAD and be a part of other groups as well. Look at them as collaborators. They may be able to bring something to Phi Alpha Delta that you need. You may be able to share budgetary funds. You may be able to share speakers, all those kinds of things. And finally, the biggest rule that I have here is to use the #1 rule. And people usually are a little confused about what that is. The #1 rule of recruitment is actually ask people to join. Follow up with every single interested member. So many times we have witnessed a fantastic recruitment table, great information about Phi Alpha Delta, but no one is actually asking, hey, are you ready to join? Or, hey, can I get you set up with the online application? It's so simple to do, but it is the most forgotten part of recruitment. So if you don't remember anything, just remember to just ask. We can ask so many alumni why they joined PAD. The #1 answer we get is because someone asked me to. If you're new to recruitment, use these 5 steps that are listed here on this slide as a basis for planning your pitch about Phi Alpha Delta. You're not just selling the organization, you're selling the people and the community that Phi Alpha Delta brings. So again, as I share these slides after the presentation, make sure you read through those, because if you're new to recruitment, I know I certainly was when I first got involved working for Phi Alpha Delta, this is a great, simple, broken down plan to how you can start to approach that recruitment process. Any questions about recruitment before we get into things like fees? Are any of you all, have you already started your recruitment? Are you having trouble with recruitment? And anyone can feel free to unmute themselves and chat as well.
Hi, Emily. I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead, Ashley.
So I actually recently joined and
welcome.
was told by PAD that my chapter may be inactive. So I'm working with the school right now to try to figure out if that's actually what's going on. And so basically there's a good chance that I'm going to be kind of not a founding member at my chapter, but like a new group of people. And we have a student fair that happens. It's mainly focused around the 1Ls that happens in September. And so my assumption is if we don't have an active group right now, and I'm going to be restarting that back up, that's a main way that I'll be recruiting. So do you have any tips for like if we're basically starting from nothing?
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for stepping up to help out the chapter. There are a lot of chapters in that situation right now, post-pandemic. So we certainly understand the challenges that come with it, but there are a lot of great opportunities. So yes, I do have some tips for kind of starting from scratch. One, my big tip is to kind of familiarize yourself with some of the basics of what comes with membership. And we are actually going to talk about that in a few minutes. So I'm not just going to throw you to the wolves on that one. Because I think when people have not heard of Phi Alpha Delta ever, they want to know, why is this worth it? And we can help you answer that question. So one, focusing on that, that's a good part of it. Another big key recruitment thing starting out like this is, I think, being honest with people about leadership opportunities, letting them know, like, yes, we're kind of restarting. We are looking for people who want to take on that leadership role. And that way you can get a lot of people involved who, even if at 1Ls, you know, they started law school for a reason. They have that drive, they have that energy. Even if their goal is like, I want leadership skills for my resume, that's okay. You can use that to your advantage. So that's the other one, is advertise those leadership opportunities when you're doing general recruitment. And then I think my third big tip for this kind of starting out, this reactivating recruitment, is to really not just talk to the people, but listen to the students about what they want on campus. You're going to be sitting there at the student organization fair. You're going to see all of the other events and programs that the other organizations are putting on. Figure out what they are not doing and start to make that your focus. Maybe they don't have a huge bank of speakers, they don't have alumni coming on campus to talk to the chapter. That's something PAD can help with. We have a massive alumni database. There's alumni all across the country, and we can help connect you. If can't make it in person, then maybe they can make it virtually. Maybe another org already has that covered. That's fine. Then focus on academic programming. We have a lot of partnerships with bar prep companies who can assist you guys with getting that set up. So find your niche on campus is my third big tip there. And if there's more you want to talk about with that, we're happy to schedule a one-on-one session to talk about some more specific tips and things that are going to make sense for your campus as well. Alexa, I see your hand as well. Go ahead.
Yeah, my chapter is actually in the same boat. That's kind of how I inherited the justice position. It was more of just a handoff sort of situation. So we're definitely looking for other chapters that are, kind of on their startup too, if you guys want to collaborate. So people like Ashley, like, we're happy to kind of help each other out because it's in a difficult place. But I was curious with recruitment, since I've never done this before either, is there some kind of limit? I know I talked to Jen before, and she had been very gracious of the fact that we were being very we didn't have as much going on, and so we didn't have as many limits. But do you guys have expectations generally for recruitment, like deadlines for that, and how many people you guys are looking for?
That is a great question. No, we do not have a specific number that we assign for chapters to meet. Every campus is different. To assign a blanket number like that would be really impractical. We suggest that if you want to make a recruitment goal, it would be a great idea to, if you look at your 3Ls, for example, say you have 5 graduating 3Ls, aim to recruit at least 5 2L, 1L part-time new members to kind of replace that graduating class. That is the best way to keep membership consistent, to make sure that there is more opportunity for leadership. So like your situation, it kind of just fell into your lap. That way, ideally that doesn't happen, but we really do appreciate you stepping up and being able to do that. So yeah, I would say if you're looking for a goal, replace the graduating members, but we are never going to hold you to a specific standard. You're never going to get an angry letter or email from us saying, oh, you only recruited XYZ members. You might get a check-in from us to say, hey, it's mid-October. We noticed, you haven't recruited anybody. Do you need help? but we're always going to be here to help, not to penalize in that regard. As for deadlines, there are no deadlines for joining Phi Alpha Delta. Anyone can join at any time. We know the most popular time is during the beginning of the fall semester. That's when a lot of people are joining student orgs. But keep that going all year round. There is never a bad time to join. You never have to tell people they have to sign up by a certain date. You're welcome to set some internal deadlines, like, for example, if you know you're going to hold your initiation ceremony by a certain date and you want people to sign up a certain amount of time in advance to make sure you have their materials, that totally makes sense. But that doesn't mean someone can't fill out the application at a later time. Does that answer your question? Okay, I saw a thumbs up. That's great.
Thank you so much. That was really helpful.
Great, awesome. Anything else with recruitment before we move on to our next slides? Okay, awesome. Seeing none, I will go ahead and move on here. Okay, so I know law school is expensive. I know that the student debt crisis is, it's just that, it's a crisis. So if we're gonna sit here and tell you it costs $90 to join our organization, we're gonna tell you why. Here are where our fees go. It covers all of your materials. It includes that recruitment materials, new member materials. It includes insurance for the chapters. It includes things like a district budget. We sort all of our law school chapters into districts that are overseen by a volunteer. That volunteer, one of them is with us today, Jen Romari from District 18. That volunteer hosts an annual district conference for you all, a district leadership and transition conference. You'll see DLTC here, that's the abbreviation on the slide. So money goes into that budget to allow them to put on that event, to get you all food, pay for parking, all that fun stuff. The fee also contributes a little bit to our charitable branch, our foundation, which supports our grant program. We're going to talk a little bit about that later, because you are all eligible to apply for certain grants and scholarships when you are a member of Phi Alpha Delta. The fee also goes into providing member benefits and discounts. We do have contracted partnerships with a lot of companies. So we do pay sometimes a certain amount of money to make sure that you all have a discount on things. That's included there. And then finally, the fees also go to support the operating budget of the fraternity, which candidly does include the dedicated staff support to chapters and members. Both myself and the other staff here, we are 9 to 5 here to help you. It is our full-time job, and the membership fees do allow us to continue doing that. When we break down the cost benefit, I know that every time I bring this up, I have someone who says, can you just break it down for me? I didn't go to law school to do math. So we tried to do it for you here. If you use any of the benefits that we have available, our goal is that you basically pay for your membership and then some. So some of the examples that are on here, we currently have a 25% discount with Kaplan Bar Prep. I missed the P on prep there in the slide. I'll fix that before I send it out. But for their course that costs a little bit over $1,000, that's about it's a bit more than that, sorry. But you can get up to a $500 discount off of Kaplan just by being a member of PAD. So that pays for your membership, and then you make about $400 as well, because you're all going to need bar prep eventually. You might as well get it at a discount. Themis also offers $100 off of their courses. That pays for your membership right there itself as well. These free CLE courses, I know you don't need CLE yet, but you're going to. So it's something to keep in mind. We have 1 year free of CLE courses. If you want to go ahead, once you've graduated, you pass the bar, you're practicing, and you're like, wow, I have to start paying off all of my debt. I don't want to pay for CLE on top of that. Don't worry, we've got you covered. You can also take advantage of that as a law student. There are a lot of great learning opportunities with the CLE course library, so that's something to keep in mind. Also included in your membership is our free resources like the Career Center, which is not just jobs and internship postings, but also opportunities for resume review and for interview coaching. That is all available to you as well. Then we have a variety of other discounts. We have free financial counseling from some our partners at Access Lex. They're actually offering quite a few sessions this fall on ramping up to student loan repayment. So if that is something that affects you, keep an eye out for information on that. We have discounts through BetterHelp, online therapy, even a champagne company if you want to go a little big with that. Professional attire through Brooks Brothers, travel discounts through Avis, things like that. So if you use all of those discounts, they really do stack up. And I can personally attest to that because I have actually used Phi Alpha Delta discounts for things as well. So I know that they work. All of these benefits that we've listed out here are in addition to the benefits that can't be given a financial value. You can't quantify the amount of money you might get in 10 years of practice from referrals from other Phi Alpha Delta members. And I definitely can't quantify how much money you might make at a summer associate program that you got into because you met the right person at convention or mock trial. I don't say those things just as a sales pitch. If you want, I can actually put you in touch with people who have gotten jobs and other referrals because of our programs. Again, not just a sales pitch. I promise it's truly out there. Especially as a practicing attorney, knowing that you have a network of people that you can throw a case to, that they can throw cases at you, it can really lead to a huge amount of business for you down the road. And again, you get all of that if you just pay $90 once in law school. One and done. That's our model. Any questions about the cost benefit, fees? I know money is always a big topic. So if anyone has any questions about those kinds of things, please feel free to ask them now. Okay. If anyone thinks of them, don't worry. We can always go back to it later. Great. So I briefly mentioned, again, in our last slide, some of our programs, our grants and scholarships. And so this is all included with your membership as well. I don't think that you can fully, again, quantify the impacts that some of our programs can have if you choose to participate in them. It's really a situation where you are getting what you give with some of these programs here. For example, we have a Society of Scholars program, which is academic recognition. Anyone who is in the top third of their law school class or their equivalent, if your school does not rank, it can be eligible for recognition there. And that always looks fantastic on a resume. Our senior transition program, some of you even might have participated in it. It's the process for when our undergraduate members have joined a law school chapter, and we can do the same for you all as law students when you graduate. When you graduate, again, you automatically become an alum and you have the option to join a regional alumni chapter, and we can ease that transition process for you to allow you to make those connections before you even got into the bar exam yet. Our gold program is a newer program. It is called our Growing Our Leadership Diversity program, and it is a specialized small class program, usually 10 to 15 students, that is specifically focused on leadership diversity training. We offer a lot of leadership programming at our events and things like that, but this program in particular is a fantastic targeted approach to growing not only the diversity of leadership in Phi Alpha Delta, but the diversity of leadership in the law in general. And then finally, on other programs to keep in mind, we have an ongoing speaker series run by our programming committee roughly every other month. They host a free webinar session. Their next one is actually coming up on September 19th. It's on artificial intelligence and the impact of that on the law. As well as a ton of webinars from a lot of our partners. I've mentioned Kaplan, Themis, Access Lex. All of them will put on free content for our members as well. We can focus on bar prep, legal writing, and again, student loan repayment. That's a big one right now. We also try to financially support our members through our foundation. As I mentioned, that's our charitable 501c3 branch. All these funds help support students. We have a few listed out here. Our NICLE Competitions Fund helps students, teams who want to attend our mock trial competition. It can subsidize either half or all of the registration fee. So I know when you asked about that earlier, keep an eye on those grant applications. Those are available at the moment. Our Mighty Sparrow Fund is listed here. That is available for individual members to apply for if they faced a change in circumstances and they need assistance on a personal level. We can assist with that. We offer a large amount of grant opportunities to attend our biennial convention, which I'll talk about in a few more minutes. But we are committed to helping students get to that event with as little to no cost as possible. Some of our programs, like the Society of Scholars, include their own scholarship programs. And then we have partner opportunities as well. Some of our partners have provided access to their specialized scholarship databases as part of our agreements with them, and we can make sure to share those with you too. Any questions on programs and our funding options here? Awesome. Okay, so let's assume recruitment has gone well, but these potential new members want to know specifically what your chapter is doing, and that is where programming comes in. We do ask chapters to have a variety of events that meet these categories listed out here. All the categories support Phi Alpha Delta's mission of service to the student, the school, the profession, and the community. Cover everything from professional development to social/fraternal events to community service. And then, of course, your chapter operations events like the initiation ceremony and the chapter and executive board meetings. If you do not have your calendar finalized for this semester yet, I suggest you make that a priority. It is much easier to plan ahead and implement programs than plan on the fly. I understand that's easier said than done. And of course, things change. We know that, you have to swap things around because something comes up with a class. Maybe a speaker has to change their availability. That's okay. Setting a calendar in advance does not mean it is set in stone. It just means you are thinking about all the things that need to happen far enough in advance that it doesn't overwhelm you, in addition to doing law school on top of it. I just previously mentioned, our speaker series and our partner webinars. Many of those are recorded like this session is today. Use our event recordings on our YouTube channel. If you're having trouble setting up events, there's nothing wrong with streaming a session that we have already put on and having a chapter discussion about it. That's a very easy event to do. You can also connect with local alumni, other local chapters to co-host events. And if there aren't any, consider again working with other on-campus organizations as well. We are happy to put you in touch with other local pads in your area. While there are all of these categories listed here, and you'll see, it says 2 per semester, 1 per semester, all that fun stuff, keep in mind that you can double dip in categories. For example, if you do have an alumni member come to speak to your chapter at a meeting, that can be both a professional development event and an alumni networking event. So you're knocking out 2 categories in one event. So don't look at that and think, oh, wow, I have to fit 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11, 12, all these events in one. You don't necessarily have to. That's something you can build up to if your chapter gets bigger and you have more resources. Finally, you can also connect with some of our benefit partners I mentioned earlier, and they can either sponsor or host events for you. A lot of them are doing that virtually these days, so it's very easy for your members to participate no matter what their schedule is. You guys will actually be getting an email soon about some of these opportunities for the fall, so keep an eye out for that. And then finally, I kind of mentioned this earlier when we were talking about, rebuilding and recruitment tips as like a first timer, but figure out with programming what events your other on-campus organizations or campus offices are holding. Figure out what's missing and what is attractive to you as a law student, future attorney that you need to see happen. For a lot of chapters, it is our alumni network. It is that direct connection to practicing attorneys that lead to advice, that lead to jobs, that lead to referrals down the line. Maybe that's your chapter, maybe that's not. Figure out what your niche is on campus and tailor your programming around that. We do have a list of event examples in our chapter operations guide, which is available on the officer resources page. So if you look in the appendix of that guide, we have a huge list of examples. It is certainly not comprehensive. We are more than happy to brainstorm additional ideas with you. We collect all chapter calendars, so we see all sorts of events, and we can go ahead and pull that and take a look at what other chapters are doing really well. We'll take a look at our award-winning programs from chapters that have won awards in the past, and we can help you figure out how to set those events on as well. Does anyone have any questions about setting up chapter programming? If this is something that you're struggling with and you want to chat about, please feel free to raise your hand or ask a question, and we can definitely go over it. Okay, alrighty. All right. Well, in addition to your chapter's events, we offer quite a few national events that you should know about that I've listed here. I'll start off by talking about our law school mock trial competition, since a direct question about that was asked at the beginning of the session. We do host that annually, usually the last weekend of February in the Arlington, Virginia area. It's right outside Washington, D.C., very convenient to get to. It is a multi-day competition. We accept up to 28 teams. You can be any class to compete. That means we take 1Ls, you can be 3L, 2L, any combination therein. And it's teams of 4 students competing 3 times over the course of the weekend, and then with a possible advancement to our finals rounds. It is a great event if you are looking for litigation experience, if you're looking for direct feedback from attorneys, because we have a lot of our alumni are practicing litigators who come in and judge, and they absolutely love to give feedback on the event, on your performance, and on your preparation as well. To help with this event, the registration fee for all 4 team members is $550. And then there are, of course, travel costs on top of that. So again, as I mentioned before, we are currently accepting grants for the NCLE Competitions Fund grant. That would cover partial or all of team fees. I believe that application is open through mid-September. So check out the law school mock trial page, which I have linked in the chat here, if you were interested in competing in that event. It's a fantastic event. Registration is going to open October 16th. And if you are interested, I highly suggest being ready on the 16th. We do fill up every single year. So, a few other events listed here. Some of them apply to you all, some of them don't. For example, our pre-law conference, not usually something that you all need. You're not pre-law anymore. Same thing with PAD Day at the U.S. Supreme Court. But that's not so much a situation of you all not needing it. It's you not needing it yet. That is an event we put on for our alumni members who have been barred for at least 3 years. We sponsor members to be sworn in at the Supreme Court because that is a separate process and ceremony than being sworn into practice on your state bar level. It is a fantastic event. We generally host it in June each year. I was able to attend this year, and all of the current sitting justices were present for the ceremony, which does not always happen, but it was a fantastic thing to see. It is quite something to actually be in the Supreme Court. We have our Phi Alpha Delta pad.org event calendar that we do keep regularly updated. That will include dates for the speaker series, partner webinars, meetings, open forums, anything that you want to be involved in on, on a more national leadership level, like our international executive board meetings. All of that stuff is listed there. We can also list chapter events as well. So if you have a virtual event or if you have a large event that is open to people outside of your campus, we are happy to promote it on our calendar. Just let us know and we will make sure it gets posted on there. But I highly suggest that you have a link to that calendar included in your own chapter's calendar that you send out to members. It's a great way to beef up your calendar and all that programming without you having to do anything except include the link. Jen just put something in the chat about PAD Day. She was able to meet the late Ruth Bader Ginsburg, which she was a huge supporter of Phi Alpha Delta and of that event. And there's really nothing like it. So having the chance to meet justices is truly incredible. One of the other big events that's on here that I have not specifically mentioned yet, but I'm going to take a few minutes to talk about is the Phi Alpha Delta Convention. And that gets its own slide. And it gets its own slide because it is our biggest and probably most important event for you all to be thinking about. That is going to be held next summer. We got a whole year to prep, July 31st through August 4th, 2024 at the Omni William Penn Hotel in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. It's a historic property that we managed to get a really excellent room rate for. So we are very, very excited about that. And for those of you who are sitting here like, I've never heard of convention, why should I care about this? Convention is the event that brings together our law student and our alumni members, not only for programming, for leadership development, for operations, chapter operations training, but also for networking, for the fraternalism element, for our fraternity business, such as electing our next board of directors, our international executive board. It is the key event that Phi Alpha Delta hosts. chapters, and we only have it every 2 years. It's biennial. So if it was a normal convention year, it would have happened just a few weeks ago and you all would have heard about it. But you may not have heard about it if you're a new member, because we didn't have it this year. It's going to be next year. I highly, highly suggest that you start planning for convention now, because it is expected that your chapter will send at least one representative to the convention. It is so important that you are represented there, and are able to cast votes for things like the next board and on any other major fraternity business that might come up. So definitely keep that in mind. It is worth your time for sure. And we are happy to talk to you for hours about why it is worth your time and the things you will get out of convention. But then we would be here until 8 p.m. and I'm sure you all have things to do and classes to go to. So we won't do that. But if you need anything at all with that, Jen just put a really great testimonial in the chat, and she linked her email address in there too. And again, for those of you who have just joined us, I know a few people hopped on probably as classes changed out. Jen is one of our district justices. She's one of the volunteers who help your chapters. So you all have a district justice, or you have the executive office to work with if your district has a vacancy. So ask any of those alumni members or our office, and trust me, we will talk your ear off about why convention is worth it. To make it worth your while, we do provide funding to the chapters to make sure that they can attend. We automatically offer a blank $375 to every single chapter to cover registration fees, to be issued as travel reimbursement. That does currently cover the full registration fee for a member at the current rate. So that is something to keep in mind if you want to go ahead and start thinking about that now. In addition to the chapter stipend that comes out that we have automatically, you don't have to apply for it. We do also have the opportunity for any member, regardless of their status as an officer or not, to apply for attendance grants. These are worth usually up to $500. They can be used again for either registration, for travel expenses, for hotel expenses, things like that. We can offer you a variety of fundraising ideas, or you could consider things like charging local dues. If you have a chapter of 20 people and everyone chips in $10, suddenly you have $200 that you did not have before. So when you're considering ways to help people get to convention, consider fundraising, consider local dues, but also consider applying for leadership development funds for your school. That is the big thing in this third item here. What your chapter should be doing now is start requesting that money, start that fundraising process. If you start now and you have a whole just about a year to do it, it will make the attendance of whoever is attending so seamless.
Where are you going? Yeah.
Oh, was there a question there, or do we just have someone in the, okay, no worries. Yeah, and Jen is pointing out again too that she has personally donated to convention grants. A lot of our alumni do. They really want to see the students there. So people have dedicated a lot of time and money to help people get to wherever we happen to be. Next time it's Pittsburgh. The next thing to do right now is talk to your fellow chapter members. If you are an officer, make sure you're talking to the rest of your executive board. If you're not an officer, if you're just a regular member, bring it up to the officers at the next meeting. Hey, have you guys heard about convention? I think it could be worth our time. We should get more information from the office, something like that. Keeping the awareness of convention going is kind of a big challenge for us, because there's a new cycle of officers every year, but we don't host convention every year. So the more you all can talk about it and remember it, that is a huge help for us, so we don't have to start over every single time. Does anyone have any questions about convention that either I can answer, or I'm sure Jen would be happy to answer as well? Nope. Okay. Great. Well, as we wrap up, as I get to the end of my presentation portion here, I've talked a lot already. I know it's been over 45 minutes already at this point. I didn't even intend to talk this long, but there's a lot we do. I wanted to leave this as our last slide here as the other things the executive office can help you with. Again, we are full-time staff members here to support you in your chapter. So I want to leave this list as something that you're like, hey, Emily didn't talk about XYZ. Can they help? The answer is probably yes. So thinking about planning ahead for spring 2024 elections and officer transitions, we can help you set that up. We can help you connect with people, whether that's our benefit partners, whether that's our alumni, whether that's other law students in your area. We hope we don't have to, but we can also help you if there's ever an incident that might require a policy situation or insurance. We're here to help with all of that as well. We do have anonymous reporting options for incidents that we can give you information on, should that ever be necessary. We can help you with documentation for your university. Again, whether that's insurance, bylaws, verification of status, anything to make your job on campus easier, we can certainly help with. And we're also happy to meet with you one-on-one if needed. I've just thrown a lot of information at you. Some of you are probably listening on your way to your next class. That's okay. You might have other questions that you want to think of. We're more than happy to schedule a personal session. And that can be not only just for chapters, but for individual members as well. If you want to talk to one of us about the best way to get the most out of your membership, we are here to help, and we are happy to do that. So as we wrap up, I will end this slide. I'll leave it up for a minute or two. It does have my direct contact information and the contact information of our office up here on the slide. So I'll leave it up for a few minutes. But at this time, I will open it up to any other questions, whether it's about something we talked about or something we didn't. If you don't have any questions and you're good to go, feel free to log off. No pressure to stick around. But anyone who has questions, I will stick around for as long as you need me. Right. Yes, Alexa, I see your hand. Go ahead.
So we're trying to get to mock trial for February. That's one of our big goals. Feels like a really lofty goal right now. But I do officially have a vice justice, so I feel like we're going in the right direction here. So you said it needs to be 4 members, and then it's $550 for all 4 members. Was that correct?
Yes, that is correct. The $550 for all 4 members includes all of the materials for the competition, including the case packet. It includes breakfast and lunch on the days of the competition. It includes some of our social events. That includes an opening reception and our closing reception as well, / our awards. And I think that is it. But yeah, other than that, the only other costs that the team would have to consider is their travel costs to get to the competition. And then we do have a discounted room rate for our hotel as well. And if there's any meals you want to eat outside of what we provide.
Okay. And then, so I presume there's some, like, the materials will be sent in advance, and how soon in advance is that?
Absolutely. So the competition is held the last weekend of February. We make it our goal to get you the case packet by mid-December at the absolute latest, so that you have plenty of time. I think the standard for a lot of competitions is 6 weeks. We try to give you more than that, at least 8 to 10 weeks at the minimum. But as soon as it's ready, we will send it to you. Some years we've been able to get it out as early as mid-November. Some years it's mid-December.
Okay. And so that basically, just, contains all of our preparatory stuff, and that's what we use to prep for the February competition.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, it will include the full rules. It will include the summary of the case. It will include all of the affidavits, the witness statements, the depositions. It will include evidence files. It will include relevant case law that it would apply within the world of the packet, all that fun stuff. Yeah.
Awesome. And so then it's just a matter of just the chapters themselves going against each other, and then is it sort of like a tier sort of thing, bracket system, I guess I should say?
Yeah, great question. So yes, we randomize the team schedule. We don't have, like a regional system or anything. We have no way of knowing the experience levels of people coming in. So we have a randomized scheduling system that you're guaranteed to compete 3 times, once as prosecution, once as defense, and the 3rd time is a toss-up. Our randomizing system picks that, and you'll go up against 3 different teams. Those are our preliminary rounds. They take place on Friday and early on Saturday. Then we are tallying up all of the scores, and our teams with our top 4 scores then proceed to our finals, which take place Saturday afternoon. So I'd call it more of like a round robin than a bracket, but it's kind of a modified version of that.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. Awesome. Well, hopefully we'll be there I guess next year technically, but we'll shoot for it. I'm not sure how feasible it is, just because there's a lot of recruitment stuff that needs to happen over at my chapter. But we'll put it out there as a goal, or shoot for the stars, and hopefully we'll be there. So I'll definitely be in touch with more questions as we go along. But thank you so much. This is a really great presentation.
Awesome. Thanks. Well, I'm glad to hear it. And yeah, we are happy to help with anything else you need. So whether it's mock trial related or anything else, just reach out. I will talk about mock trial all day long for sure. So happy to help with whatever you need there.
All right. Thank you so much. Everyone have a great day.
I'm going to go ahead and I will stop sharing the screen since we are at the end here, and that way you can all see me. Jen, I think I saw your hand up next. Did you have a question? Yeah. Oops. Did you get muted? Oh,
mute
sorry.
me. Mute me.
It was an accident. I'm so sorry.
It's okay. No, and sorry to everyone else. This is kind of particular to Alexa, but I mean, I think I would use it for your teams as well. For you, Alexa, I think I sent you an email maybe a couple weeks ago. Do reach out to Professor Sala. I don't remember if he was a coach, but he did attend the 2020 mock trial competition with the team from your chapter. And then I can put you in touch with people who competed at that competition to kind of help you get an idea of what goes into, you know, your whether you do tryouts for it or your practices for it. Maybe they can help you get a coach, maybe even if it's done virtually. So that will be helpful. And I think other students on the call looking to participate as well might want to look into that too. And you can either, you know, ask Emily for, you know, maybe the last time your chapter had someone participate. For people you can reach out to, and definitely your DJ as well. And I think that's a great recruitment tool too, especially if you're looking to recruit upperclassmen. There may be students who didn't get on your school's, you know, court team who still want the practice, and this is a great way for them to be able to do it.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Jen. Yeah, that's awesome. Does anyone else have any other questions? I know a few people had joined late in the presentation, so even if it's something we went over and you just want to ask questions about it, please know I'm happy to hang out.